Goldfinger.
Hello Internet, so nice to see you. Today I'm gonna talk to you about one of my favorite tricks to inject emotion into a melody. And it's one of those tricks where you take the notes and you just change one note and it sounds great, okay? There are only two problems with that. The first one is that to make this trick work, you have to respect three specific conditions. So I'm gonna go through those three conditions, okay? But don't stop this video after you see the first one, because otherwise you don't get anything out of this, okay? Just making sure. The second thing is that the name of this little trick has been used for several different things, and so the use of this name is controversial. The name of this trick is appoggiatura. First of all, let me remark once again how weird it is for me, an Italian, that everybody in the world uses the Italian language for those things. First of all, because appoggiatura is an old Italian word that means to lean on, so I don't see why you cannot call this a leaning tone, as we're gonna see later. It would be much easier for everybody. Also because every time I go around and I say appoggiatura, people don't understand me, especially here in the English-speaking world. And indeed, when I was discussing this with another musician, it was this big a misunderstanding, because they start talking about appoggiatura, but they read it in a strange way. They read it in a very English way, like appoggiatura, okay? And so for a good 5 minutes into the conversation, I had no idea what they were saying, because if you don't read it in an Italian way, I don't understand. Anyway, so sorry for the rant, but I mean, you can call it a leaning tone. That's great. Now, the problem again is that the term appoggiatura has been used by different music theory books or different traditions to mean completely different things. And so if there are some internet warriors among you already Googling this term, make sure to put the right amount of letters everywhere, okay? It's 2P, 2G. If you go and Google all these, you're gonna find that appoggiatura refers to something completely different than what I'm gonna explain to you today. I tell you what, I don't care, Google doesn't have all the answers and Wikipedia doesn't have all the answers either. This trick has been called appoggiatura at a certain point in the music history, okay? And I'm gonna use this name. So, and also the exact definition of appoggiatura changes from book to book. It's maddening. I mean, I have like 5 different books open in front of me with 5 different definitions. So I think we are never gonna get a consensus on this. So what I'm gonna show to you today is appoggiatura my way, okay? So take it for whatever it is. The important point is that this trick works and it sounds great. Let's say you have 2 chords. We need 2 chords for this trick, okay? For instance, I could take a C and a G, okay? I'm starting simple, but as you're gonna hear in a moment, this sounds great when we apply it in the right position. But for the sake of explanation, again, simple chords, C and G. When I play my C chord, I'm gonna put the E note on top. And when I play my G chord, I'm gonna put a G note on top. Okay? So those are my melody notes. So the first important thing is that from the first chord to the second chord, the melody needs to go up. And that's the first condition. From the first chord to the second chord, the melody needs to go up. Then, what we're gonna do, we're gonna take this second note here. Rather than playing this second note here, we're gonna play the note just higher in the scale, which is the A note. Okay, so that's the second condition. The note higher in the scale than the intended chord note. And the third condition is I'm gonna play this A note exactly when the chord changes, and then I'm gonna resolve it down to the original G note. So essentially it sounds this way. So again, recapping. 1, the melody has to go up. 2, we are not landing on the chord tone, we are landing on the note just higher than that chord note in a scale. And 3, the landing is on exactly when the chord change. If you put together those 3 conditions, the thing works. Now, you may think, Tommaso, what you just played is not particularly inspirational. Okay, but that's because that's the simplest example that you can find. Now, let's try this thing. I'm gonna take 2 different chords. I'm gonna take an E chord and a C chord, okay? And on the E chord, I'm playing the B note as my melody note. So, here it is. And then on the C chord, I'm gonna play the E note as my melody chord. and I'm gonna apply an appoggiatura here, okay? So now in what scale are we? We are formally in the E major key, but the C chord is borrowed from minor. If you don't know what that means, don't worry. My point is the note just higher than the E in this scale is the F sharp note. So I'm gonna play the B note over the E chord. When I switch to the C chord, I'm gonna play the F sharp note and resolve it down to the E note.
Goldfinger.
So I guess that sounds a little bit more inspirational than where we started from, right? The trick again is to choose the right chord or the right moment in the melody to do this. And in this case, it's just the very beginning of the melody, and the two chords are pretty interesting together, okay? So let's take a different chord progression. Let's take a very easy chord progression like C, A minor, F, G. Super simple chord progression that you've heard so many times, okay? And let's decide on a few melody notes. So on C, my melody note is E. On A minor, my melody note is A, and I need to go up. Then on F, my melody note is C. And on G, my melody note is G. And I'm picking those completely at random right now. The only thing I'm taking care is that every now and then the melody goes up, and I'm gonna apply the appoggiatura. Which is a strictly better melody than what we had before, just by adding two appoggiaturas here and there. It sounds already way more emotional, okay? Which is not bad for the simplest and most common chord progression we can find, and a few notes taken at random. Let's change our notes for a moment and see if it works even if we change our notes. On C, I'm gonna play a melody note of G. On A minor, my melody note is C. Of course, higher. On F, I'm gonna keep this melody note of C. And on G, I'm gonna go up to a melody note of D. Okay? And I'm gonna embellish it a little bit more with some other notes, maybe. So again, these melodies tend to sound much better than just the first four melody notes I found, and it's a melody I wrote in literally 10 seconds while recording this video. Really, I didn't prepare the examples before. I'm literally doing this in real time. Okay, now of course, it's not the best melody ever written, but my point here is that if you take this trick and you sit down and you try this with your guitar, you're gonna write tons and tons of melody. Some of them are not gonna be so great, but some of them are going to be. And then you select the best ones, and then you can write your own songs. I mean, that's what this is all about, no? So, of course, the problem with all this is that you need to have a pretty good knowledge of chords and where to play those chords. Otherwise, you are left with recording first the chords and then improvise over the melody later. I mean, you can still do that. I mean, it's great. I mean, you can still write your own backing track or use a looper pedal, record those chords, and then play just the melody on top of it. Sure, that can work. It's not as convenient. I prefer to have everything under my control in every single moment when I write songs so that I can play chords and melody at the same time. And if you want to be able to do all that, I recommend you guys have a look at my course, Complete Chord Mastery, where I'm showing you how to visualize all the chords with all the fretboard and then play chords and melody together, play chord melodies too, and do all this kind of thing that allow you to play everything at the same time. That's a course made specifically for guitar, okay? So I'm not going to do long theory on the piano. I do all the theory in this course straight on the guitar, which is very convenient for us guitar players. Anyway, no pressure, okay? I don't want to sound like an infomercial. I know I do sound like an infomercial, but I mean, check out the course and see if it works for you. And if you have any questions, just send me an email and I will answer to all your questions. If you like these videos, smash on that like button. Don't forget to subscribe. And by all means, if you have questions, write them down in the comments. And then I love reading your questions and making videos on that. This is Tommaso Zilio of musictheoryforguitar.com. And until next time, Enjoy.